Okay, so welcome all to this event on play featuring Dr. Gordon Neufeld. As I said earlier, I'm a faculty member with the Neufeld Institute and the regional director here in New Zealand. I've learned so much over the years from this incredible paradigm, but today we're talking about play. Now, play is something that really goes missing when we're in a state of alarm. Alarm from the Neufeld paradigm is that sort of fight-flight response, where any sense of urgency or any sense of danger in our physiology, in the air, in our system, we go into alarm. And this puts us into what Dr. Neufeld calls the work mode rather than the play mode. Now, given that most of us here are from Auckland and we have been living under lockdown for at least 10 weeks now, and it's not a very playful time. Certainly not for me in my household. There's a lot of sense of, oh, we just have to grind our way through this. This is difficult, it's stressful. What's happening? There's so much uncertainty, and it pulls us right out of play. The thing about play is it's really a luxury that arises when we've had enough rest in our system. And you might sort of think, well, why aren't we well rested? We've got less social events, less demands on us than ever, but we don't rest well when there's any kind of alarm in our system. And our kids pick up on this alarm. So when we're in the work road and we're trying desperately to work at home and get our jobs done, and the kids are getting a whiff of all of this work going on, the whole tone in the household can kind of drop to this is serious kind of a place. And this becomes difficult for kids because play is where they work out a lot of their emotions, their frustrations. Play is a very powerful thing that happens. It's not just a frivolous thing that happens in between to fill in the gaps. And I'll leave Dr. Neufeld to talk about that more, and Sandy will talk about it more later in today's presentation. But really today is about encouraging you to re-find your play, which means you need to first of all find your rest. Now, sometimes when I work with parents in my private practice and talk about the importance of playfulness in their household, they'll say to me, I just can't think. I can't think of how to play with my kids. I can't think what to do. Especially, I work primarily with parents of teens and troubled teens are usually actually not that much fun. They're often in this really serious and quite intense. They've lost a lot of playfulness. So my advice to you, my best tip for play is to let your kids lead the way. And on my Heartsync is the name of my business, on my Facebook page today, I've posted a TikTok video that my teenager sent me earlier in lockdown. She always makes me laugh. Teenagers are absolute naturals at play. And so my advice to you is look to your kids to help you play. They're the ones who are best at it, and they're our best teachers. So what I'm going to do now is share this presentation. It's Dr. Neufeld talking at this year's Neufeld Institute Annual Conference. Now, normally the conference is held in Vancouver, and some of us from New Zealand have flown over to join in on the conference. It's a fabulous event, but obviously because of COVID, this year it went online for the first time. And the wonderful thing about that is we get access to the recordings. So I'm looking forward to sharing this with you. We're going to start with a 15-minute introduction to his presentation that Dr. Neufeld will be giving. We'll stop and chat, and then we'll do another 15-minute part of the presentation specifically on play, and Sandy will speak to that.
And I'm going to move here to a diagram I put together of a while ago now. I had the privilege and the honor of being invited to give a special anniversary celebration of the Year of the Family, United Nations Year of the Family, to a United Nations sponsored address in Europe. I later gave the same address at the Parliament buildings of the European Union in Brussels. And it was, in a sense, a pressure, as a keynote always is. It was a tremendous privilege to be entrusted with this, to put all the pieces together. And it was a tremendous exercise. I enjoyed it tremendously. And putting all the pieces together, it was what are the irreducible needs of a child to realize their full potential, not just to survive, but to become all that they were meant to be. Today, we stand in danger of losing the forests for the trees. We have great difficulty getting to what is really the important for all the things that are urgent. And we lose the big picture, so to speak, of what it is that our children need. And I just want to remind ourselves and bring back this diagram I put together here. I'm not going to give this address now. I'm taking a different angle at it, but the diagram here is about the irreducible needs of a child for the realization of human potential. What is required? And you'll notice that at the bottom of this diagram is not survival. For those of you familiar with Abraham Maslow's diagram of survival that he made in the late 1940s, early 1950s, before we knew that much about attachment, he had survival as coming before what we would now call attachment needs. He hadn't specified that as such, but what absolutely revolutionized and should revolutionize our thinking is the fact that it is attachment, not survival. And the reason for this is that for mammals, at least, the way we're designed is that our preeminent need is for togetherness. Because when we experience togetherness, we have the greatest probability of surviving. Part of togetherness instincts, as we will look at, is the instinct to care, is part of the whole family of pursuing contact and closeness. So even though you could say survival is our need, it is not our preeminent drive. We don't actually feel it as a need. We don't feel shelter as a need. We don't feel safety as a need. If something happens, an atrocity, an earthquake, or so on, we're all the same. We are all one thing in mind. How do we get to the side of our loved ones? Where's mommy? Where's daddy? Where's my husband? Where's my wife? Where's my children? Where's grandma? Where's grandpa? To get to the side of our loved ones. And all the mammals are the same. They will go through danger to get to the side. So it's an attachment that is there. It's at the bottom of the pyramid. And of course, most of my courses are all about attachment that is there. It's our need. Yes, we could say a need to survive, but our drive is for togetherness. It's how nature takes care of us by getting us stuck on each other. Now, the next one is feelings. Now, this again may surprise us because feelings have not come to the fore in much conversation at all. Notice we said not emotions. We didn't say ideas. We didn't say behavior. We didn't say thoughts, but feelings. It turns out that feelings are somewhat separate from emotions. We can feel our emotions or not feel our emotions. We can feel our tiredness or not feel it. We can feel our hunger. And so we can feel our body, and we need to feel our body. We need to feel our instincts. And part of those instincts are our instincts to attach and our instincts to care. And we need to feel ourselves and especially feel attached. And we need to feel at rest. And we need to feel our instinct to play, to feel playful. We usually see feelings still as the problem, not the answer. We're still saying, oh, don't feel that way, calm down, get a hold of yourself, don't be so. And so feelings are we don't really see them as our treasure, as absolutely the need of a child to realize their potential, but they are. And fortunately, there's a growing science that puts feelings right front and center. Then there's rest. Notice, not work, but we believe in work. We believe in outcomes. We believe in goals and 5-year plans and striving for this. No. All good things when it comes to the realization of potential comes from a place of rest. Now we say, I know that. And of course, we know that theoretically, but how do we translate that into actual practice? And then there's play. A brand new science of play, hardly even 2 decades old yet. That which is right before us, we consider to be frivolous. We always consider it to be, in fact, its definition in science was activity without purpose, only to find out that the joke was on us. That play has huge purpose. It is the leading edge. It is a place of activated rest. In fact, if we take play away from the equation, even with monkeys, with mammals, if we take play, oh my goodness, there's all kinds of problems that come that we could call emotional health problems or mental problems, whatever it is, but they are there as well. These four for irreducible needs for the realization of human potential. It boils down to this, a kind of a rewriting of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, so to speak. They are the path to emotional health and well-being, as well as to becoming fully human and humane. They are also the indicators of well-being. You can be quite intuitive about this. We know this, for instance, with our dogs, especially our cats, for instance. If they've been through trauma, we know when they are getting better because their playfulness returns. They feel their play instinct. Their playfulness is there because they purr. They now again can feel at rest. And so we can see these probably more one step removed from ourselves, but these are true for us. These are the indicators, and it brings it right back to those who are in everyday contact with children, with students, because these intuitive indicators are there. When a child loses his playfulness, his restfulness, when he's losing his feelings, he's in trouble. We're in trouble when we lose our playfulness, restfulness, our feelings, and so on. And so something needs to be done. So these become the indicators of emotional health and well-being. And they are more than that. So something, when I was giving this address, I just felt it's not quite right. It's not quite right. There's something else here. I didn't know how to address it, because when you talk about needs, you talk about something that's rather passive and flat, like a need is either fulfilled or it's not. But these are not needs. Yes, they are needs, but there's something more than that. There's something far more than that. And how was I able to capture it? And I haven't been able to find the right words for it. I think the closest that I could really find for this is these are life forces. We can't command these. Nobody's been able to imitate these. We can no more make these happen than we can make life happen. They're not a matter of schooling. All the books in the world could not give you these. If they're life forces, could we not say that this is nature's workforce? And is this not invisible? We hardly even use the word nature. I continue to capitalize it when I use it because you have to personify it in some way or another to get the sense of it. This is about the magic of life. These are life forces. These are something we can't imitate. We can assist, play midwife too. We can do various things, but this is the invisible force. And I'm not much of a drawer. Unfortunately, school took it out of me because it turned it into an outcome-based thing. But every now in my PowerPoint, I tried, and I tried different images, and I ended up with this. And pardon my primitive art. It is indeed primitive. But I tried to capture the power and the movement and the spontaneity of this amazing team of life forces. Again, doing something that we've never been able to duplicate as humans. We can't duplicate life. We've never been able to do. None of these can be commanded. They are spontaneous, but not inevitable. You cannot learn them. They are not skills. They are not genetic. You cannot buy them in any store. No amount of money will give access to them. It answers the issues, because when I would go to these global conferences, they would say, if we could eliminate child poverty, we would have the answer. No. If these forces are not alive and well in us, the answer wouldn't unfold. If there were other answers, if we could make universal childcare universal, if we could get the best school system in the world, we would have the answers. No, 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 and no. None of those will be the answer. But these are invisible. These are nature's, again, workforce, life forces, this winning team of dynamics. Words fail me here. I just don't know what to do. We've lost the vocabulary around this. But these have been covered up, this team of life forces. The role of nature in this has been covered up. Now, I put the bassinet in here. But I mean it for all of childhood. This was just to be a little bit humorous, putting the bassinet here. Now, you'll notice the attachment is that which hitches everything up. And it is true that attachment plays the anchor role. And I hope to reveal this. And I have play in the lead because play kind of draws the whole team along. And as I talk about it, you'll see that that's exactly where play is. And feeling and rest just kind of fit in the middle there. We'll cooperate if everything else is right. And we don't even have to think about them. But unfortunately, we've lost sight of this. Now, maybe this was supposed to be the wisdom that was embedded in our culture. I don't know. We've kind of lost our way with culture. Our culture serves the dollar. It doesn't serve the kinds of things that unfold human potential. But what's got in the way of all of these things, it seems to me, they've disappeared from view. And we've got all our attention has gone to all the things that are the result of human endeavor: work, school, skill, experience, achievement. Now, not that we can mess with genetics, but if we could, we would. Opportunity, socialization, proper conduct, and of course, the new word. We don't even realize this is a new word. The parenting as a word didn't even exist in previous generations. That it was something you do. It was parenthood. It was a state that was there, assuming that if you played your role in the right way, everything would unfold. These are what we're looking to for the answers. We're looking for the answers in all the wrong places. These are what we are giving credit to. All of these, they eclipse, they camouflage the brilliant design that is embedded in there, what nature's purpose is, what its team, again, it's a working team, its workforce of these life forces. So what I want to do is very briefly in the time we have is I'm not going to, I don't want to waste the time in speaking about these things, how they're not to the answer. What I want to do is get right to the core, the thick of it. I'll let the others build on this in various ways. But what I want to do is peel away this layer so that we can have a look at how attachment takes care of the child, how the child's feelings take care of them, how rest takes care of the child, and how play, that frivolous, purposeless activity that we just fill in the cracks and we think is about children, and how that is does the work. Well, verse 4, the fourth verse. Again, remembering that play is actually an activated form of rest. So it is the entry of rest. We're still awake, but our brains and our bodies are in the rest mode, so to speak. It's the leading edge and so on. How does play take care of us? Well, I've created 3 courses on this because there's so much to say about this. But I'll just review this here quite quickly. Provides a safe place for emotions to be felt and expressed. Oh my goodness, does it take care of feelings? I'll bring back an image to illustrate that point. Provides a safe place for highly charged instincts to be expressed. For alpha counterwill, attacking impulses. We should be drawing them all into play to preserve our relationships. Provides a protective greenhouse and creates a leading edge for all tender new growth. Gives a powerful but exhausting attachment and achievement drives a needed break. Preserves and exercises a child's will in a controlling world. This is important because it is a controlling world, and this is where they don't lose their will. They need a sense of will. It is a core to their sense of self. Frees problem solving to be creative. Frees attention to be interest-led. In fact, curiosity is simply attention at play. Optimizes learning, provides a safe space to protect future roles and skills. It's huge. Now, the kind of play that I'm meaning here is I bring this into various places, and it's kind of play obeys these 7 properties, or has these 7 properties. Not everything we call play is play. Playoffs certainly aren't play. A lot of screenplay isn't play. Play is ultimately engaging. It is so engaging that we don't even have to think of the outcomes because we're engaged by the activity. And so if a child is playing a board game for the outcome only to win, or a screen game or whatever it is, it's all about outcome. That's not play for them. That is about outcomes. In play, you're engaged by the activity itself. So whatever game, whatever it is, it's only play for a child if it's the activity that would engage regardless of the outcome. It's not for real. You can be 2 sisters in real life, but when you're playing sisters, it doesn't count. You can yell at each other, scream at each other. Your parents may say, "Stop it, girls," but the girls will respond, "We're only playing." Why? because it's not for real. It's a parenthesis. It's a bubble. And that's what the parenthesis is. Play is best when there is a clear beginning and a clear ending. Somehow play signals that we have that is there because it works best. Otherwise, play can be an escape out of reality because it's not for real. It's not stimulating. That is, it's not about movies, entertainment. It's not this, because there has to be something for the emotions to hook onto, for things to come from inside out. Play is always meant to serve getting the inside out. And it's always safe, not always safe physically, but safe in terms of feelings not getting hurt. And we're always free to play. Nobody can make us play. And so the will is preserved, and that plays a huge part. So if an activity has these properties, it will serve the functions of play. Now, how does play fit into, where does it come from? Well, of course, it flows from rest. In fact, it is rest, so it serves all the functions of rest. And of course, we're not free to play unless we're feeling attached, because attachment is the preeminent need. Even if wolf cubs can't, in a sense their attachment around them, all play stops. And so there's a sense of being able to take the attachment for granted. And that is the beautiful place in which play emanates. Now, what does play do? Well, play provides the rest that is needed, because that is what play is. And so it provides the rest that is needed. It takes care of feelings, which I'll illustrate in a moment. And we find out that we're most attractive to each other when in the play mode. It primes attachment and it protects attachment, because what it was meant to do is draw out all the difficult emotions, the attacking energy, all the misplaced alpha energy, the dominant energy, all of these things to come into the play. So what? So it doesn't hurt our relations. So play was meant to do this, but we don't use it that way anymore. So I want you to think of emotional playgrounds here. And of course, play takes care of feelings. It does so in a remarkable way. Emotions are not at work, so the inhibition of feelings is reversed. Play is safe, so feelings won't get hurt. Emotions are freer to move, and so more likely to be felt and identified. Emotions are easier to feel when one step removed from real life. And what's more, a lot of times there's no words. In play, words don't get in the way, or the lack of them doesn't get in the way. So back to our Dem Bones song, right? Play results from the rest that results from the feelings of attachment that result from being safely attached in a dependent mode to a caring adult. All wonderfully connected. So the trouble with play is that it is not demanding, requires a space free of attachment, preoccupation, stimulation, and outcome-based activities. Oh my goodness, this new science of play, everybody in the science of play is sounding the alarm bell. Children are losing their space for true play. The kind of play that is represented by the 7 properties that I showed you, that kind of play. Now there's lots of screen play. There may be even lots of playground play. There's lots of games. We have all of that. There's lots of playoffs. There's lots of sports these days, all of these things, but they're outcome based. They are not the kind of play that is the play that the child needs. And so we are in trouble. It seems that culture preserved that play for generations. The amount of play a child would get was the same. And now it is there in the last generation, children have lost that time of play, dangerously so. So nature appeared to have had the answer. In fact, a very significant answer. That is, when we lost our feelings, we couldn't feel the hole in our attachment. So instead of saying, I miss, children would say, I'm bored, because they couldn't feel the vulnerability of that hole. So you could see how, okay, this is a problem. They're losing their feelings. But if we look back into times past, when they were bored, what would most likely happen is they would emerge into play. Well, play takes care of the problem. It brings the feelings back. Play is a state of activated rest, and all would be well. What a brilliant design. That nature senses the problem, and the answer is play, and it's the leading edge, and it takes care of all the others. It pulls everything along, as we saw. How incredible, except in today's world. In today's world, something has happened very recently in that the answer to boredom is not this kind of play, it's entertainment. It is screenplay. It is stimulation. It is nonstop. This is getting in the way of the play that children need. So I have to add something to our course. Maybe a generation ago, we could have ended it right here. All of this will happen. You don't need to worry about it. When you see your child play, you know nature's at work. This is wonderful. You know nature is up to everything. This is nature's workforce. It's invisible. But now that you know it, it's there. However, it's no longer the case. Boredom is not leading to the kind of play in most cases that needs to happen. So now we need to need to carve out some space to protect this place, to protect that place from which children can enter into the kind of true play that is represented by these 7 properties. And so we come back to this. We come back here to finish verse 4, but we got the chorus. And of course, you know the chorus. Now the chorus is, we become the answer a child needs when we take care of a child's attachment to us. Yes, but now we have something added for today's parents and teachers, as well as protect the space needed for true play. There's something we need to add to this course. Didn't always need to be there, but something we needed to add to this course. So I'm going to go a couple of slides to finish here. The flourishing child, then, the subtitle of this conference, the flourishing child. Bringing back the tree analogy, of course, I couldn't leave this out completely. I had to come back to it. We looked at the womb analogy, but now back to the tree analogy. The story of the flourishing child, all this wonderful flourishing that is going on, is not about training, skill building, is not about trying to get the right schooling, is not about all of these kinds of things. It is about nurturing the roots and making room for play, but nurturing the roots is key on this. And the kind of roots here, this diagram shows up in most of my places. It's meant to illustrate how attachment is meant to develop, starting with the first 6 years of life, each root going a bit deeper, each of those 6 years of life. But as you can see here, this is what attachment looks like. This is how attachment should unfold. There should be, by toddlerhood, some seeking to be like you. By the time a child is in the 3rd year of life, some seeking for belonging, to be part of you, to be on the same side of loyalty, to matter to you, significance, emotional intimacy, to give their heart to you, and then finally, all with that is within their heart to you. And it is us, the ones who are to be their answers, that need this womb. In a sense, if you could now combine analogies, these roots create the external womb. So this is what we are taking care of. This is what we are nurturing. This is what we want to create, this part of it. Now, the problem with attachment is it's arbitrary. It's accidental. There's no prototype. There's no metaphor. There's no picture of the mother in the baby's head. You know, if the eggs hatch for geese, they attach to the first moving object. But it's meant to be accidental. It's meant to be arbitrary, fickle. Why? Because the mortality rate used to be great when adults gave birth, and it would need to be transferred and transferred and transferred again. And so it was non-selective, indiscriminate, irrational, illogical, and we know it's illogical. Some of us, we're still trying to figure out why we married the mate we married. It is illogical, irrational, and hopefully we lucked out. And replaceable, that is why we need to take care of it. Because if we don't take care of it, all of this attachment energy can go in places that will not serve our children. This is why we need to take care of it. This is what I talk about and Hold On to Your Kids. This is what the conference is about, many aspects of this. I talk about my 7 strategies, the top 7 strategies here. I'll just list them. These will be developed as you go along, so I'll just list them. Engage in collecting often for no apparent reason. Just engage the attachment instincts, the eyes, the smile, and a nod. Just engage them for no apparent reason. Nurture the relationship and establish an alpha lead by providing a touch of proximity to hold on to, a touch of warmth, a touch of significance, a touch of sameness. Convey a warm invitation to exist in your presence. Make it safe to attach by preserving the connection. It's our job to hold on to your children, bridging anything that could divide. Don't let anything come in between. Focus on what stays the same, what's important. I'm still your dad. I'm still your mom. Don't let anything break the union. Inspire trust and dependence by taking care of the child. That's our job. Fulfill attachment needs by always providing more than is pursued. Stay in the lead again. Just like inspire trust and dependence by taking care of the child. Be in the need. Present yourself. Inspire that. Safeguard against losing a child to competing attachments through employing rituals of connection. Carve out space for just connecting time, for just togetherness time. And through introducing the new people in their lives, take responsibility for creating the village your child needs by introducing, by matchmaking, by all of those things. This is what I mean by taking care of attachments. And again, this will unfold in the conference, is to elaborate on these. But these are the things that I'm referring to. And so we come back then to the end, the analogy, womb analogy slide again. We are to be the answer for someone to depend upon, to care about them, to take care of them, to care for them, to shield them from a wounding world, to serve as a home base to retreat to and to venture forth from, to be a safe place for their feelings to recover, to catch up with them, to hold on to them and not let anything come between. All of this can be done through simply taking care of their attachments to us and a little bit of work in preserving some space for play to be able to serve its function as well. In doing this, we are harnessing nature's powerful but invisible workforce to do what only nature can do. Bring a child to his or her full potential as a human being, and that includes emotional health and well-being. And so to our closing title slide, parenting and teaching, again, is not so much about what we do, but who we are to them. And who we are is supposed to be their answers. Most importantly, to the invitation to exist in our presence, to the womb in which growth spontaneously occurs, to take care of their attachment to us, and the rest just kind of happens, and that's a good thing. Again, as I say, except nowadays, for some space for play, which also needs some protection. So nature has powerful life forces it wants to employ, but needs us to take care of the business of attachment to set it all in motion. We are the answers our children need. I hope this helps in giving you the confidence to be just that. Thank you.
Lovely. And I guess I'm just struck again by what he said there around protecting the space to play. And he talks about entertainment being quite different from play. It's our job to protect that playful space for children where that can emerge out of them. So Sandy, I'll hand over to you here to talk a bit further about play.
Yeah, it is really, to me, I love this outline of the life forces because it just brings in around what we need to get back to. We can get so sidetracked by so many other things that we need a big answer when it looks like we've got a big problem on our hands emotionally. Often we go to looking for a big answer where actually we need to come back to the basics of these life forces. And play, I think, is one of those ones that we can get a little bit, I don't know how many of you have often said to your kids, we need to do our work first and then we can play. And play is almost seen like a luxury thing, whereas it is so important. One of the things I suggest to adults, because I know that it works for me, is instead of thinking of just play, sometimes if we think of playfulness, we can actually, it can actually help us to get back into that a little bit more. Because I've had parents going, well, actually, I just don't really know how to play myself. And they're picturing sitting with their child, perhaps building Lego. Now, while that could be play, it's not the only way, but we can all be playful if we see the importance of it. So I'm just going to flick through some ideas. And the thing is to make what you do or how you introduce some more play, as I think Adrienne was saying, you know, she said that play changes the tone in our houses. And if we can just think of what one little bit could I do that's just going to help to add a more playfulness or more play, I think it can really change the whole outcome. Once we see the importance of it, we're more likely to want to go there. For me, I find music is just, for the people I work with and for myself, just having music on can actually change that tone and make us feel more playful. Making up silly songs. Singing instructions instead of saying them can be a playful way of getting that in. And when you're doing that, when you're singing it, the tone in your voice is going to be so different as well. It's going to be more playful. And then the kids might eventually just sing back too. And so and then you might just make up a whole lot of other silly songs about anything you happen to be doing. But it changes and the brain is more at rest when that's happening. Dancing, if your kids are into dancing, if you can do some silly dance, you might come up with a family dance that's just you and just got all that attachment piece and belonging as well, which is really important. You might do some chants and some body percussions, things like that. If you'll allow, now I guess any of these suggestions, you have to be comfortable with them yourself. It's not going to be playful if you cannot tolerate noise and you decide that you're going to make a musical percussion out of the glasses and the plates and the knives and forks on your table. So that won't be playful for you. And so you need to find the ones or if it's something that's really messy and you cannot do mess, you've got to find the thing that's going to work best for you. But that is a great one. We often do that at our house where you know, someone might just start tapping on the table and then someone might chime in with a fork on the glass or whatever, and so you can have your own little form of musical percussion. Throwing things.
I'm just going to chime in briefly here, Sandy, because you've got my brain juices working. This one about mess, a lot of parents in my practice just can't bear, no, we're not doing that, we're not going to get messy, no mess. And I want to encourage you to think of play as a bubble. It's this really specific time and space. So maybe you go out to the muddy end of your garden and you say, kids, we're going to see who can sculpt something amazing out of this mud for 5 or 10 minutes. And then we're all going to come inside and wash up and be clean again. It's inside that bubble. And then it may be in your headspace if you know that it's not a general mess that you're giving permission to, but a specific, fun, playful messiness, which has a bubble around it. It feels easier to tolerate.
Yeah. And I think everything is in that bubble, isn't it? It might only be the one song that you're managing, but it's still that playfulness. Yeah, absolutely. It's important just that you can find a way that you can contain that. With older children, bringing out water pistols or Nerf guns can be really good to, or screwing up newspaper and having a paper ball war. And some of these are really good, especially if you have children who come home from school or you know the different times, there's going to be a lot of frustration within them. And you're just kind of waiting on tender hooks for when it's all going to explode. Getting in first with some of that to get some of that energy out is really important. So, and putting it into play, putting it into playfulness when you can. So screwing up newspaper and making balls out of it and throwing them at each other can be a really good engaging way of just getting some of that frustration out. Pool noodles, wars with pool noodles can be really a good one too. Building up things and knocking them over. So building up Jenga blocks and towers or whatever and knocking them over. Even simple things like just leaving some things out at home. I guess if you have to stop and think, oh, we've got to play, what can I do? And start thinking, then it's going to be so much harder. But if you just have little things out that you might just engage with, so there might be some art stuff sitting at the table. There might be a game that just sits on the table. So again, you don't have to think about it, but it's just there. You might just start playing with it, or some fast scribbling on paper, or drawing silly things and copying each other. Also for older children, what can be really helpful is even just imagination. So a good idea for in the car of having some playfulness is just keeping the conversation really playful, or over dinner time thinking, okay, and you might just start a bit of an imagination story, or what would you do if this was happening? Now, again, it's not so much I want to understand my children's, for an outcome of understanding so I can instruct them about life and how this is going to be, but just nonsense. So if we were going to create a new house, what will it have in it? And start dreaming of all the things. Well, okay, well, I'd want a fireman's pole from the second story down, and the bottom of that, I want a swimming pool. And so I just fun imagination, because what that again is doing is it's putting everyone's brain at rest, and it's creating that connection. One of the things with the Dr. Neufeld's pyramid of play also is that it can be inverted, which is really good. So we can actually start with play. Play can be the way to get to the rest, which can be the way to get to the feelings, which then in turn can change that attachment. So we don't have to necessarily start, okay, I have to make sure that my attachment is really good and my connection's really good and that they can feel their feelings and that rest before we can play. Play can be the way through to all of those as well. So I'm just looking at the time, and I'm wondering if we might just stop the recording, Adrienne. I've thrown some ideas out there, but there might be a few questions before we finish too.
Yeah, so let's take the recording down.